So today we are going to answer this big question. How much do you know about watersheds? We've been learning about salmon all year and we've started to unpack what a watershed is. And so we're going to see, what do we know now? So we've learned a bit. So I'll zoom in so you can see these better and we'll go through these questions together. It says, how much do you know about watersheds? So let's start with the first question. What is a watershed? Is it A building that holds water? B, what water does when it needs new skin? C, a pool that stores water? D, the land that drains into a particular body of water? Or E, all of the above? So is a watershed a building? Nope. Does water need new skin? Nope. A pool that stores water? It's close, but not quite what a watershed is. The land that drains into a particular body of water. I think we found our answer. D, the land that drains into a particular body of water. What do smaller watersheds do? So that means like the little watershed where we live. What do those watersheds do? A, affect the life in all other watersheds in which they drain. B, make up part of larger watersheds. C, both A and B, meaning both of these answers. D, are only able to store a little bit of water. E, have miniature mermaids living in them. I wish it was that one. So what do you think? Is it A and B? Is it A or B? Or is it D? Let's read them again. A, affect the life in all other watersheds in which they drain. Oh, I remember that. That was like the ripple, right? Ooh, make up part of larger watersheds. Ah, that's true too. So both A and B is true. Excellent. We found our answer. Both A and B. Oh, here's that question again, because the watershed's pretty complex. What is in a watershed? So what makes up a watershed? Is it A, people, B, land, building, and roads, C, plants and animals, D, all of the above, meaning all three of these things, or is it E, unicorns? Did that one make you laugh? Okay, we can get rid of the unicorns, right? So is it people, land, building, and roads, plants and animals, or all of the above? That's right, it's all of the above. It includes the people, the land, the building, and the roads, along with the plants and animals. So it's all of those things together. Let's go to question number 4. When rain falls in a watershed, what happens to it? So what happens to the rain when it falls into the watershed? You might remember this from our field trip when we got to do that model of the watershed. Do you remember? A, it mixes with hazardous wastes on the ground. B, it drains into creeks, rivers, and oceans. C, it soaks into the ground. D, it melts the wicked witch. It mixes with hazardous wastes on the ground. It drains into creeks, rivers, lakes, and oceans. It soaks into the ground. It melts the wicked witch. Or A and B. So it mixes with hazardous wastes on the ground. Do you remember that? Do you remember it mixing with the fertilizer and the animal poo? Do you remember that? And then did you remember watching it drain into creeks, rivers, and lakes and oceans? That's right. It's letter E. It's both of those. All right. Question number 5. Runoff is water that doesn't soak into the ground but drains into creeks, river, wetlands, lakes, and oceans. Household hazardous wastes pollute runoff. Which are household hazardous wastes? So what are those things that are bad for the rivers and the lakes? What are those? A, pesticides and fertilizers on lawns and gardens. Motor oil leaking from cars onto streets. Pet doo-doo, labeled irritant, toxic, flammable, or corrosive. Or E, all of the above. Do you remember that model at the field trip? They showed us pesticides and fertilizers, right? They showed us oil, and there was definitely pet and animal doo-doo. Now this one we may not remember. Irritants, toxic, or flammable, or corrosive. Those are all chemicals that are very bad for the water. So it is E, all of the above. In what watersheds do some Seattleites live? A, the ones that blow down when the wolf huffs and puffs. B, all of the ones below. That means these ones down here. Lake Washington and Puget Sound. Is that near Seattle? The Pacific Ocean. Is that near Seattle? Longfellow, Pipers, Taylor, or Thornton Creeks? That's right, it's all the ones below. We live right near Puget Sound. Lake Washington is on the east side. This all feeds into the Pacific Ocean, and we are really close to Longfellow. So it is B, all of the ones below. Now this one I know you're going to do awesome on. What can you do to help the watersheds in which you live? A, use as much water as possible. That means use a lot of water. B, dump hazardous waste down the sink and storm drains. C, clean up litter and graffiti. D, call the watershed busters. I've never heard of them, have you? E, throw everything you're done with into the garbage. So remember, we're trying to help the watershed. Does using as much water as possible help the watershed? Nope. Is dumping hazardous waste down the sink and storm drains a good idea? Nope. Clean up litter, that means garbage, and graffiti. Is that going to help the watershed? Yes. Now, I think they just made up watershed busters, but maybe we could start a club. What do you think? And E, throwing everything you're done with into the garbage. That isn't a good idea because we can recycle and we can compost, right? All right, the last question today. In the past, watersheds were covered with more plants. It means a long time ago we had a lot more plants in our watershed. Why is that important? So why are those plants important? They say B, C, and E. That means this one, and this one are true. We'll have to read them first to find out. B, plants soak up and slow down runoff as it flows into streams. C, runoff that is too fast destroys creek habitats. D, it isn't important. I hate vegetables. E, plants filter runoff so that it is cleaner. Now I hear several in here that I think are true. So I'm wondering if it's B, C, and E. But let's go back and read if those three are true. Plants soak up and slow runoff as it flows into streams. That's right. Those roots are really good at doing that, and it keeps the salmon from getting washed away before they're ready. Remember, we heard about that. Runoff that is too fast destroys creek habitats. So if we have the good plants, that stops this from happening. That's true. And E says plants filter runoff so that it is cleaner. Oh, that's right. They help keep the water clean. Oh, definitely A. B, C, and E. How did you do today on the watershed questions? I want to have you think for just a moment. What we're doing now is we're moving into the big question of our salmon unit. And the question is, what is the science of salmon? That means, how does the salmon interact with all kinds of science? And that includes the watershed. So as we move into next week, I want you to come up with some things that you want to know about the salmon. What question do you have about the salmon? Because I'm going to give you a chance to tell me your questions. And we're going to go back and we're going to see if we can answer your questions. Because this is a unit of discovery. And we're going to try to discover all those things you wonder about, all those things you want to know about. So I want you to be thinking, what do I know already about salmon? And what do I want to now learn about salmon and how salmon is a part of this big watershed and is part of God's creation? So I want you to be thinking about what question do you have and be ready to share that with me next week so we can start doing some research to find out. Great job sticking with me today. See you soon.